from a congressional aide, so elevating a conservative firebrand in what is a very fractured party, the Republican Party, in their second attempt to replace out the GOP leader, Kevin McCarthy. They've been trying to find a leader. It's been, as we often say about a lot of things, not an easy process and rather complicated. We'll have more on this, though. We're going to continue tracking it. We are going to continue talking with Bloomberg News national security reporter Nick Wadhams. Nick, what are you hearing in terms of the White House? A lot of President Biden's plate. I'm assuming the issue in the Middle East is front and center, and there are lots of calls going on between U.S. officials, but also between the United States and their allies in the Middle East and elsewhere. Saudi Arabia, I'm curious about what might be some of the conversations going on or what you're hearing about that.
Right. So the big U.S. imperative right now is, as Secretary Blinken travels to the region, is to try to get U.S. allies like the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia to exert whatever influence they have on Hamas or others, Lebanon, for example, where Hezbollah is located, to make sure that a second front does not open in this war, that they keep Iran from doing anything in league with Hezbollah, and making sure essentially that this conflict, as tragic as it is contained basically to Gaza. So that's really his top priority right now. Qatar obviously plays a role in that, given their own links to Hamas and others. So you're really seeing that focus, and U.S. officials really do hope, despite these negative signals they're getting from Saudi Arabia, they really do want to press ahead with this normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, because they think that could really change the focus and the balance of power in the region.
All right, Bloomberg News national security reporter Nick Wadhams, so appreciate it. We want to go to our next guest. With us is Mick Mulroy. Very pleased to have him back with us. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, retired CIA. He's also co-founder of the Lobo Institute, and they look at, analyze, try to assess some of the conflicts or future conflicts around the world. So a perfect voice to have back with us. Mick, weigh in on the next step that we might see potentially out of Israel and your concerns. Here we are 1 week in on this conflict.
Sure. So it looks like right now they've already started what we call the probing operations, special operations forces going in, trying to find Hamas leadership, kill or capture them, reconnaissance forces going in, trying to find the strengths and weakness in Hamas's defenses. If they find the strength, they're calling in airstrikes. If they find the weaknesses, then that's probably where the main effort's going to come. The armored personnel carrying infantry to start this, what we expect to be a significant ground incursion into Gaza.
Mick, how does Israel thread this needle where they make sure to take out extremists, designated terrorists by the U.S. and the European Union, members of Hamas, while at the same time making sure they minimize casualties that are civilians? After all, this is a very densely populated place.
You're absolutely right. This is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Gaza essentially is the size of 2 Washington, D.C. The IDF currently has twice as many forces that Russia has for invaded Ukraine, which is the size of Texas. So if you think about just how compact this combat is going to be, that's going to tell you that a lot of civilians are going to get killed unless they heed the direction, which is to leave the northern part of Gaza, get down to the southern part, and hopefully somebody can establish some kind of safe haven down there. But whatever they do not need to stay in Gaza City or any of these populated areas. It's going to be very difficult for the IDF forces to distinguish friend from foe, because Hamas doesn't wear uniforms, so they need to depart now. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. The UN has said that it's impossible to move those million or so inhabitants of North Gaza to the south, which is being demanded by the Israeli authorities. Having said that, Mick, do you think that this is the beginning of the escalation that we've been fearing? And if so, how much wider might it go from here?
So I think it could be, and the reason why I say that, if Hamas, and the whole purpose of the IDF is to destroy Hamas, if it looks like that's going to happen, then there'll be a lot of pressure on Hezbollah to join this fight, and Hezbollah has more significant military capability than Hamas ever has. So if they get into this fight, they have 150,000 rockets and missiles, they have precision-guided munitions. that is really significant. It's a big problem for the IDF, and that is why I believe the U.S. is parked right offshore some of the most significant military assets we have, just in case it can overwhelm the IDF forces.
What do you think happens if the U.S. actually has to use those military assets that it has off the coast of Israel right now? Or on their way to the coast of Israel, I should say.
Absolutely, and you're right, there are more on the way. I think it'll likely be air. I don't see any reason for the U.S. to have to put ground forces. The Israeli active forces are 170,000, and they've mobilized 360,000. So there's really no need for ground forces, but the air component of the U.S. arsenal is substantial, and it could significantly damage Hezbollah, and that, of course, could bring in Iran. So that's the big deal. As you said, first question about what they come back, but they still line up this much armor, infantry without real intent to go in there, and they've already said that's what they're going to do. So it could happen this weekend. It's likely to happen this weekend, and we just hope that as civilians see the warning, UN is correct. It is very difficult to move 1 million people, but individual people and their families should not need that, and they should leave.
Yeah. All right, Nick, thank you so much. Nick Mulroy, so appreciate it, co-founder of the Lobo Institute, and of course so much more. This is Bloomberg Radio.
The Bloomberg Talks Podcast. Today's top interviews from around Bloomberg News.
Joining us now, former South Carolina Governor and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley.
Stefan Bancel, CEO of Moderna.
Wide-ranging conversations with Fortune 500 CEOs and business leaders around the world.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with our Eric Sanska.
Bloomberg Talks. Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. Bloomberg Radio. Context changes everything. No one knows when it's long to go. And right now, feels like a wild ride. One thing's for certain. There's no truth. And the experience and guidance of the men of the crisis can help you get that. Because where there's a ball, there's a way.
Morning nursery pistachios are bigger with the new moon units by the trees. Crop years ahead. Save pre-productive time and several acre-feet of water by planting moon units. The new Vigor Clone rootstocks establish faster, come into production faster, and plateau at higher production levels than standard pistachio rootstocks. Duarte Nursery has several better pistachio tree formats available, including the moon units for 2022 and 2023 spring planting. Talk to your Duarte Nursery field rep today.
The Big Fresno Fair is back October 4th through the 15th, and it's bringing big wins to the racetrack in the Brian I. Pizzerian Grandstand. Don't miss the live horse racing excitement you look forward to all year long. All presented by Table Mountain Casino Resort and Coors Light. The Big Fresno Fair. It's the only spot for live horse racing action. Get your tickets at FresnoFair.com. Big time to back.
The Valley Made Manufacturing Summit returns October 26th at the Fresno Convention Center, featuring keynote speaker Kevin Goring, partner of McKinsey & Company, plus informative breakout sessions, vendor exhibits, a job fair, and more. Come celebrate local manufacturing and all things Valley Made. Buy tickets at sjvma.org. Sponsored by News Talk 580, 1059 KMJ, the San Joaquin Valley Manufacturing Alliance, Workforce Connection, CMTC, Nelsie Enterprises, State Center Community College District, The Business Journal, and Best Company.
This is the Ray Appleton Show on News Talk 580, 1059 KMJ.
No. We continue with Steve Hilton, who is joining us on a Friday. Had a good excuse this time. Had to do his duty to, he spent a lot of time in response to what's happening in Israel. And we will get to speaking about all together. And am I right? Can we keep you until 45 today?
Yes, very happily, yes.
Yes. Well, that picture of you with the gigantic corn dog out here last week. I've got more, I posted that on my Facebook page. I've got more comments on that than anything in the last year. It's ridiculous.
I know, exactly. Who cares about the politics as long as we have a jumbo corn dog?
It's the military's new favorite weapon. You just use it to beat somebody to death with a stick.
By the way, it was incredibly delicious, I've got to say. I mean, I bought it because it was...
the exact same thing, yeah.
Right, and I bought it because it was fun. And I just wanted to see it. And then, I thought I'll try it. It was just so good. Really, so good.
Were you able to eat the whole thing?
I should.
Sure you. They're
scary.
An emotional thing to the New York airport as individuals who are in the This is huge. The scene of Kennedy takes off in 787 was remarkable. This is all being taken care of by the airline and corporations here in America that are taking care of the bill. For the first time ever in the Orthodox, those in charge of that, the Jewish group, are allowing planes to fly on the Sabbath. That shows you the importance of this action that's going on. But the fact that so many from this country are going over, it just tells you that this is the world. There's a lot of countries. I went through the list before you came on, from Thailand and Cambodia to England, who have lost individuals. Germany, the first to say the other morning, we're in all the way militarily, whatever you want. To think about that relationship between the Germans and the Jews now and where it was, the world has changed considerably. So before this is all over, it's my speculation, there's going to be a lot of countries involved. I just can't see it any other way. Do you share that?
I don't know, Ray. I think it's going to be the real...
I'm a little worried too. Yeah.
The test is going to be very easy to light up the Brandenburg Gate and Downing Street or whatever. It's easy to send off planes with good wishes. But when the fighting starts and when the real, going gets tough, as we expect it to do in Gaza, in this absolutely, extraordinary situation, so difficult, you've got the requirement to bring accountability to Hamas and its leadership for what they did, for the slaughter and the barbarism. And you also have the obligation to try and bring back those hostages alive. Huge number. They've never seen hostage taking on this scale before. And so it's an incredibly difficult situation. I remember clearly being, years ago when I was in doing some work with Israel with my company, and there's a friend there who's serving in the military there, of course, and it was the time of Jenin, and it was a big story, and there was huge condemnation of what Israel did there, and he was there in the fighting, and he just said, I remember hearing about just how tough it is. And the point that's always made is that because Israel is a democracy, they do everything in the open. They do everything in a transparent manner. Their operations are often during the day, unlike the terrorists who sneak up and do it in a different manner. And so you're going to get condemnation. You're already seeing it. And so the question will be, will these countries who are very, correctly standing with Israel now, and it's great to see, I agree with you, will they stay the course?
I had a dear friend on this week. His name is Mike Hamzy. He's from Lebanon. His full name is Sheikh Merwan Abu Hamzy. He's Druze. He is the leader of his tribe. He's been involved with active combat against Hezbollah. He is indicating the only way this is going to end is that we have to, somebody, go into Iran and dispose of the terrorists. Otherwise, forget it. This is going to go on forever. I'm in such lockstep with that. We have to. How? That's the other question, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And we've seen what happens when we've tried to do that before. And that doesn't end well either, when we try and go in there and decide who should rule the country with our troops and so on. And that's why I think the right course is the kind of campaign that was being waged by President Trump, which was the maximum pressure
on all sides, trying to, squeeze the leadership, sanction the leadership, take out the military leaders responsible for terrorism and other acts. And I think maximum pressure is a very apt phrase for the kind of action we need. But that doesn't mean an invasion. So I would be very much against any kind of repeat of an operation that, like we saw, certainly in relation to Iraq. I don't know if anyone's even talking about that, but I mean, that ended in a total disaster. Sure. And actually, in one sense, contributed to some of the problems we see now. The other thing I'd say is that if you trace it all back, I mean, there's an amazing book that people should read if they're really interested in understanding the history of this. The real origin of this modern manifestation of political Islam, the radical Islam that you're seeing, is the Iranian Revolution. And what prompted that? It was actually, if you take it all back, it was intervention by, it's actually the British to protect their oil operations in Iran, going back to the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which ended up being renamed as British Petroleum, BP, we now know it as. And it all goes back to that, and crushing of a legitimately elected prime minister in Iran through a coup that was backed by America. But at the request of the British, it was the British that really started this very aggressive meddling in the Middle East, and it's ended in absolute disaster for us. So I think that you obviously need to stand up to them, and stand up to the menace of this kind of terrorism, that is for sure, especially Iran, and do the exact opposite of what the Biden administration's been doing. But I really don't think that anyone would, well, I hope no one would be advocating for an invasion of Iran to replace the government.
We had a gentleman call yesterday who was an American version who supports regime change, and I do, but from the inside.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly
the Iranian people can possibly do it. So if we can fortify their strength, eliminate their weaknesses, to allow them to do this, that would probably be the best way to go about it. Let me get to the phones before we go to news. Jennifer, you're on with Steve Hilton. Go right ahead.
Hi, yes, I was calling. My heart goes out to the people of Israel and the innocent people of Palestine. I just want to say that first. Secondly, and until and unless we start holding these social media companies accountable, this did not happen in a vacuum. It's unraveling the information that Hamas was able to use encrypted social media to create this event. So unless they tackle that, it's going to happen again. And when do social media companies get held accountable? They need to shut this ability to communicate and create this kind of a nightmare for Israelis and Palestinians that are innocent. When do they tackle this? Why aren't they being held accountable? Why aren't we shining the light on that? Because this would not have happened without that.
Well, look, I think that it's 100% agree that we need to hold these companies accountable for a whole range of harms that they do by facilitating this kind of communication. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to in this particular case, because my understanding is that actually one of the reasons that they were able to execute this barbaric atrocity so seemingly easily in the face of this incredible surveillance that Israel has set up over Gaza, and you know, they're both in terms of technological surveillance, but also sources on the ground, was that they did it in a very old-fashioned manner, that it was coordinated literally with sort of pieces of paper that was handed from one to another in order to evade the technological superiority that the Israelis have. So I don't know, I mean, but I agree with you with your general point that there's a huge amount of harm that gets done in all sorts of different areas by what happens on these social media companies. And I think, frankly, we in the world would be much better off without them.
We have to break away, excuse me, for a little bit of news. Those of you calling into Buffalo, stay put. I guarantee I'll get your calls right after the news break on KMJ. With that news right now, here's Dave.
KMJ News now.
fight between Israel and Hamas could get even messier with the threat of another Iranian-backed militant group on the other side of the Gaza border.
There is great concern that Hezbollah, the very well-organized, very well-funded terrorist organization that is based in southern Lebanon, could enter the fray in this ongoing conflict. Hundreds turned out today for a Hezbollah rally in Lebanon, and later we saw an exchange of fire between Hezbollah forces and Israeli forces on the border between northern Israel and southern Lebanon.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt reporting California is getting ready for what could be another big water year.
After last winter's record year, the Department of Water Resources is staying on high alert. October 2022 to March 2023 marked the sixth wettest water year in state history, with rounds of heavy rain and snow across the Golden State. With so much water to hold, many areas flooded, including some here in the Central Valley. With the potential for El Nino conditions expected to continue through this spring, state officials are keeping a close eye on flooding risks to minimize damage. They're creating more space in reservoirs and have flood resources at the ready. California has already provided flood training to 18 agencies, cities, and other groups. In the coming months, there will be a dozen coordination meetings with local and state partners.
ABC 30's Jessica Harrington with the details. Bring your family out to Castle Air Museum for Open Cockpit Day at its historic location in Atwater. Tours, food, helicopter rides, and an all-new kids zone will be waiting for you. Santa Fe Drive. Of course, in Atwater, Open Cockpit Day. Open Cockpit Day runs from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. this Saturday, October 14th. Check out castleairmuseum.org for more information. Zubu has kicked off at the Fresno Chaffee Zoo. ABC's Margot Kim has more details about the seasonal event.
The Fresno Chaffee Zoo welcomed little ghosts and goblins. There was plenty of fun around every corner, including a pirate ship, pumpkin display, dancing, and of course lots of candy. You can also see some of the animals after dark, and there's an exhibit that zoo employees say is extra spooky.
I do love going to the reptile house during Zubu. I think there's something about reptiles and it being dark outside, a little spookier. I think it's super cool.
Zubu runs every Thursday through Saturday until Halloween. Tickets start at $16 for children and $18 for adults.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones ended the day in the positive, gaining 39 points. S&P 500 lost 21. The Nasdaq dropped 166 points. By the weather right now, it's sunny and 79 in Fresno at Radio City. Expecting a high of 85 today. Lows in the 50s around the valley. 52's low here in Fresno. This weekend, partly cloudy skies with the highs in the mid-80s. Then it's 87 on Monday. I'm Gabe Navarro on KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream.
Hey, it's CG on my program Saturday morning. The longtime voice of the San Jose Sharks, Dan Ruzanowski, play-by-play broadcaster, sports host, anchor, and sports writer up in the Bay Area, Ben Ross, and the entertainment critic from the Daily Beast, Nick Shager. CGP, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. on KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream.
KMJ, partnering with ABC 30 for the latest breaking news from Fresno and the Valley.
You lucky people. What am I talking about? You now can have crawdaddies in your own home. That doesn't mean that Keith and the crawdads are going to come set up in the living room and play every song ever made because they know every one of them. It's amazing. No, that's not it. I am talking about the other best thing about the most fun eating and entertainment establishment in this part of California. The food, baby. The food. DoorDash. You can grab crawdaddies. Great menu through DoorDash. You know, I don't know anybody who lives more DoorDash than me. If I lived in the South Valley, I know what I'd be eating every damn night of the week. Crawdaddies cuisine. Yeah. You've been waiting to sample crawdaddies? Well, you can do it through DoorDash now. But, you gotta go to Crawdaddies. I mean, at least once or 100 times in your life. Crawdaddies, of course, is on me and my stallion. I love it. But now, you lucky people. You get to DoorDash. Crawdaddies.
I want you to want me.
Get ready for a musical institution. Deep Trick, live. October 18th, Warner Center. Over 4 decades, and the legacy continues.